Welcome Signature Life to our sales meeting December 8th, 2020. Nearing the end of the year.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, right? We got a good one on tap today. We got Chris with a whole load of questions.
I got my sheet.
We've got Tom, he's got stats.
Woo-woo!
Janet's got some announcements. And
Business planning.
And Todd's going to lecture you and also talk about business planning.
Yes.
Today?
But to get started, we'll start over with you,
Oh,
Shelly
kicking it
Panzarella,
off.
Prosperity Lending.
Happy Tuesday, everyone. So I wanted to also share that I'd love to do the 12 days of Christmas. Can we do that? And do a celebration on that? I know we talked about it, but I like to shoot from the hip. So we're going to raffle off. So if we have 3 sales meetings left, how many gift cards would that be in each of those sales meetings? Thank you, Todd.
4.
So 4 gift cards today. So you have to listen, you have to pay attention. And one of the questions perhaps could be in this mortgage moment. So I want to talk about the FHA loan limit. So they are increasing for 2021. They're going to 360 to 250. Something that we discussed last week was the multifamily. So to go to a duplex, the max sales price is going to be $463,750. A triplex is $560,550, and a fourplex is $696,650. FHA financing.
Well, that's a
Guess
tongue
how much
twister.
the down payment?
3.5.
3.5%. So I went online this morning and checked to see how many multifamilies, if I did it right, how many multifamily properties we have on there. Guess how many we have?
I have no idea.
86.
5.
4 sales, ones that are active for sale.
Multiply, yes.
2?
Well, there aren't that
24.
many in town.
24.
79.
Oh,
No.
I was closest, but I was over. Just like, what's that show?
$1.
Right,
You're
the
over,
price
yeah.
is right.
Price is
Right
right.
is price.
The real
Right,
weird thing
price.
is Chris is sitting next to the answer and he's still.
I never looked down
I don't
once.
understand.
I couldn't see in her notes which
Good
was
to
the
know
right
they're
answer.
not cheaters. But so how many of those are over the 696, 650?
24. I'm sticking with my number.
12.
I have no
5.
idea. Tell us.
3.
3.
I was close.
So the rest of them are within the limits.
Within the FHA loan limit. So if you have a borrower, I want to share this with you. I looked at one property that is a fourplex. $750 for each of the rentals. For FHA financing, they do have to occupy one, so only 3 would be available. What
In
would
the
be that?
beginning.
In the beginning, that's right. Intent to occupy, and at least for maybe a year. Okay, so for the 3 rentals, $750 each. What number is that?
2250.
You guys are quick.
Oh, they say never do math in public.
22.50.
I wasn't
Whoa.
listening.
Blackjack.
3.5% down. So I was thinking of our average FHA borrower, let's say 620 credit score. That rate is 3.625.
Wow.
For an investment property, right? They occupy one. If this is a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, the mortgage payment with the HOA is $3,203. What did you say that the rent?
2250.
$2,250.
It almost cash flows.
It almost cash flows, but what happens if you happen to need to move up in life and you buy a single-family residence? That 4-unit then, or the 4th property then becomes a rental.
Yeah.
So it's 4 times 750.
Yeah. Almost.
3,000.
It's still almost.
It almost cash flows. That's
Yeah.
right. Now, if you have a higher credit score over 620, the rate would be 2.875, and that mortgage payment would be $2,997. Then you're cash flowing.
Yeah.
There you go.
Well,
And you can write off the
close.
interest because it's your primary residence.
Yeah.
Yes.
While you can still get a mortgage interest deduction. That's kind of cool.
Yes.
That's a massive interest deduction.
76 FHA or properties out there, multifamily available. Still have to follow in line with the traditional FHA standards. So safety, health hazard issues, the water
gotta be a
heater.
legit place.
Has to be legit, still free, yeah, standing up on it.
Condition-wise, it
No
still has to.
no slumlords.
Yeah.
Well,
No
and a buyer could come in and put more than 3.5% down to make it cash
Cash
flow.
flow.
Like it doesn't
Absolutely.
just, they don't have to do 3.5, they could do
Correct.
more to make
Correct.
it cash flow.
Absolutely, yeah. So I wanted to share that with you. VA is also in the same boat, so you could do the same thing. They're unlimited as far as sales price is concerned. Conventional is going to be 25%. So if you're looking for a FHA or VA investment property, this would be one way for you to do that. The other thing I wanted to share really quick is the FHA condos. So there are 150 FHA approved condos. I checked 89135 because I wanted to see if I can purchase a second home up there. The Affinity project is now in price range.
Really?
Yes,
So when you say 150, that means 150 approved
Approved
complexes?
projects.
Okay.
in the valley. One of them being in the 89135 was the Affinity.
Okay, so how do I find out which 150 are approved?
I will
Call
share
Shelley.
you. Yes, I'll send that information to you. Just reach out to one of your Prosperity Lending loan officers.
By the way, that would be really helpful if you list a condo to find out before you list it if it's FHA approved
That's right.
before you put in FHA acceptable, which is a big issue that we've had. We've had several deals this last month where agents wrote offers because it said FHA yes, and then they wrote it and
It's FHA, no.
it's FHA no.
Yeah, you can't rely on.
It's actually no on all of the categories.
Yeah,
It's
so
just cash.
let's just say that, I mean, the agent, I mean, we understand that the listing agent checked FHA, but it's still, as the buyer's agent, you're still responsible to find out if the offer you're writing is gonna work or not. So you gotta get with one of the loan officers and find out if that complex is approved or not.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
Very easy to
So
do.
on that same line of thought though, I actually found out from you that even some conventional loans with down payment parameters cannot qualify, even though it's conventional financing because of the way complexes are approved.
Occupancy and then litigation are the two biggest things that are holding back conventional, well, actually FHA, but conventional financing for sure. Yeah, and there's several that we're getting spot approvals for FHA as well as conventional too. But the two biggest things is look at occupancy ratio as well as your litigations.
And
So
the occupancy ratio needs to be more owner ox than
typically,
renters, yeah. So
Yeah, so it's like over, 50%.
50%.
So you just said spot approval, so there's some instances where we knew going into it that it wasn't approved, but there was a feeling that it could get approved. And so we wrote that term in the contract that not only do we have the regular contingencies, but we're going to allow a period of time where both parties know it for a lender to try and get the project approved.
Yeah.
And so how long would you recommend that you need to try and do that?
So depending on whether or not you want to wait for the condo cert to come in, which we all know that can take 10 days, right, just on your demands, we usually will some clients will want to wait to see the condo approval first before even ordering the appraisal. So sometimes you have an extended appraisal contingency, but always expand that loan contingency out probably to the close of escrow date, just because it goes back and forth for condo approval when you're doing the spot approvals.
So at least 30 days on the approval.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Very cool.
Cool.
Amy, we're moving. I'm getting a fourplex.
Moving
We got a
on
good one for
to the east
Blame
side.
Shelley.
We're moving out of the double wide into the fourplex, honey. We're gonna do that this year.
So Tom,
Yeah.
one of your duties as the president of LVR is you do a monthly stats with George McCabe.
Yep.
And you talk about what's going on in that. And fresh off the press, and you just recorded that this morning, you've got the stats.
Yeah, and let me do this again. Look, the housing market's on fire, folks.
On fire.
It's on fire, right? Look, who would have guessed that during a year of a pandemic that we'd have 6 months in a row of breaking the record for the most of the median sales price for a home, which is now at $345,000.
Wow.
So you're-
$345,000.
So you're saying the median sales price has gone up 6 months in a row?
That's what I said.
Okay, just being clear.
So it's on
It
fire.
was, it's on fire. That's
Do you
the
know,
second one.
every time he's done a stats video, he's had excitement to share something cool. Mine was 317, 317. Yours was like 320. You had the most excitement. You got to say something different, but
I didn't. I said, like last month, the median
Yeah.
price is, we're in a stable market.
That means we need Tom for another year.
No. And look, you're probably worried about how many sales we did last month in November. And let me just say that we had 3,035 sales, transactions, right? It doesn't sound like much, but it's 26% more than it was in November of 2019. As a matter of fact, most of the stats that we have, we're doing better now in 2020 during the pandemic than we did in 2019. Even the amount of homes, the total volume is 46, almost 47% higher than it was this time last year. So, you know, all of us have been able to make a lot of money for those that are doing transactions and going out there and doing what needs to be done to get a home sold. And let me just say, even in 2021, 2022, everybody that I've talked to and the people that I've read, because there's a lot of people smarter than me,
yeah.
right, have said that there's no reason that this is going to change, right?
Sorry.
They got more pins. What? They got more pins.
You know, there's no reason for this to change. You know, all of a sudden, we're not dumping a whole bunch of homes on the market. The builders are still going to build at their current level. I know.
Worried about getting smacked.
Now that would make for good TV.
So it's, you know, I think it's going to be some status quo.
Yeah.
I mean, we may, you know, falter here or there on a month or two during this next year, but it's going to be a relatively good year. And so relatively, we should all be making money next year as we move forward.
You know what's really cool is you said 3,300 sales, and people talk about the pandemic and the state keeping real estate essential. That's literally 6,600 paychecks that went out to real estate agents that got paid. And so I can't think of a better stimulus, than that. And difference from Janet's here to yours is that on average, those checks would be $1,000 more than they were in 2018 because of the raise in price if they just went by averages. But that's pretty impactful.
It's been good. It's been a good time.
Cool.
And I just want to say, if you're one of those, what was it, 6,600 paychecks that
Yeah.
went out, your local, state, and national dues have hit your inbox.
And no refunds!
And so if you're one of those people that made money, it's because due to our lobbying group
That's true.
and the money that we put into political campaigns who supported the realtor issues, we've been declared essential. And do not call the association and say, take that $50 off my bill, because that's the
Janet,
reason you made any money at all.
We
Yes.
don't all talk like that.
Well,
But no
when
matter
it-
what,
when it-
nobody gets a refund.
When it involves
But
money,
sometimes we
they
say, could
do-
you please?
Could you please?
Well, no, they're not that polite when they call accounting. Trust me, I've talked to the accounting department. But, New Mexico, they've been shut down. They're non-essential. They can't work right now. Washington State shut down. We're working, we're making money, and you need to contribute to RPAC.
And
Well said.
it's the $50. If everybody did the $50,
Yeah.
right, we'd have enough money to continue on fighting the battle that we've been fighting with you at the state level and through our
Not
legislative.
against me, with me. Just to clarify, open houses are okay.
Well, it's
$70
more important
a year.
now than ever,
Yeah,
because
'cause
with
we
the
got-
shortfall in the budget, they're gonna be looking
Yeah.
for money.
Yes, they are.
And we're low hanging fruit, so we need to be able
So-
to fight that.
You talked about inventory, and I think that's the biggest thing that everyone needs to be on the lookout for right now, is we know this is November's numbers, and because they always trail by 1 month, and in December, we're under 4,000 units, which is under a month's supply of inventory, because 4,000 is the month mark.
Yep.
And so if we trend, like we always see properties expire the end of December and then get relisted in January, but if they do expire, if we lose 300, 400, 500 listings, that's a dramatic inventory shortage. I mean, we're in the weeks instead of the months anymore. And that hasn't happened since what, 2005?
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens as we start the new year. But look, just don't stop working now. Because really, right now, sets you up for a great January, February.
You were talking about pricing, and when you're in markets like this with extreme shortages, people usually go out and they look at comps, and then they take those comps and they help price the home at adequate comps. When you're in an inventory shortage with prices escalating, you can't do that anymore.
You shouldn't do that, or you're gonna shortchange your seller,
Yeah.
right? And so it's important to stay on top of the stats and what's trending, because if it's trending up, you might wanna be pricing a little bit more. But be careful, don't
Yeah.
price too high, because if it's trending down, you're gonna really hang your seller out to dry, so it's important.
Yeah, because the new listings, right, that have come on the market in November, the median price range for them is at $350, and that's been staying pretty stable. So I've always said, we're going to continue going up
Yep.
as long as the median price range is higher than the median sales price range, and we're within $5,000 of it. So I don't expect much of a movement in December because the median price range of what's available is at $350. So how could it go above that if our inventory isn't above that?
So I thought I was checking out some of the market stats with the builders, because you usually trend the builders, their new product when they come out. And so I hadn't seen massive pricing increases on their sale price, but what we've seen massive increases are on their lot premiums.
Yeah, the lot premiums are
Killing
just
it.
crazy.
Someone called me the other day and said it's a $125,000 lot premium in Mesquite
Yeah.
for a new home. $450,000 new home, $125,000 lot premium. And I'm like, with a view of what?
How do they get
And they're
that
like the mountains.
appraised? Like, how does the appraisal come in on that? Seriously. Shelley?
Who gets paid under the?
She's like, not my fault, not my
How
fault.
does that happen?
Who's getting paid under the table?
You
for
gotta
that
have some
one?
cash buyers, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You gotta have money in the deal.
Yeah.
But, so they increase lot premiums as a way to increase pricing without marketing the difference, and then when you get there and
Sort of
you
like
put
a
your.
resort fee.
Yeah.
It's like bait and switch almost, right?
You don't even get internet with that one.
But not all the lot fees are created equally, so, you know, if you wanna be on this exterior lot and that's how they're pricing, of course people want those things, and so, and the cash buyers coming in and paying for it, I mean, that's
It's crazy.
crazy.
So, Tom, basically supply and demand, right? I mean, it's
Yeah.
the same every, like, how much supply we have creates the demand. And so, I've got a listing that's getting ready to go live, and 2 months ago, when we started talking about it, it was gonna be at 340, but as of yesterday, when I looked at it again, we're gonna at least go to 350.
Yeah.
And based on what you said today, I might have to look at like 360, 355, 360. So, yeah, make good decisions for your sellers, because, I mean, there isn't a lot to buy out there. There is not a lot of supply, and so that will create people willing to pay, put cash in to pay more money for a property.
You put it this way, you think about it, you had sellers during COVID that were like, the market's gonna crash, I need to throw my home in the market. If they would've held out, they might've got more money. And you had buyers that were sitting there going, I'm not gonna buy because of COVID. And if they would've bought, they would've probably got it at
Yeah.
a different
Yeah.
deal, so.
And the market's
Woulda,
not gonna
coulda,
crash.
shoulda.
The
Right.
market's not crashing. There's no reason for it to crash. Interest rates are gonna remain relatively low.
Yeah.
We have relatively low inventory. So with those two and the continued demand that we have from everybody fleeing California and the surrounding states, and even New York, we just have too
Yeah,
much of a demand.
there's no indicator that the market's gonna go down.
Yeah,
There's
the
not
market's
one
on.
single indicator.
Fire! The market is on fire and it's not.
He said it like 6 times in the video, I mean, it was a hot video.
So, okay.
What's next?
Oh, okay.
Well, now let's jump over and let's talk about business planning. So we had day one of the business planning.
Yeah, so how many people did you have?
49 people attended that. So
Wow.
hopefully you guys got some good information out that, got it.
It was
out of
really
it.
good, by the way. I really enjoyed your video and the questions and being able to answer them and seeing everyone's answers. That was really neat. Not like their actual answer,
Yeah.
but like the results.
Yeah, it was really designed to get you to think internally about what you were doing. And hopefully at the end of that, you've determined your why and you've determined your number of what you need to make over this next year to do that. So then we're gonna,
Yeah,
day
so
two.
Day two's tomorrow, 1 o'clock. It'll be live on Facebook, or we're gonna go YouTube?
So
again?
we're gonna do both. We're gonna broadcast it on YouTube and Facebook.
Facebook,
It'll be
okay.
on YouTube, but we'll post the link
On
on
Facebook.
Facebook as well.
So that's how you
need
can get there and watch it.
And
It'll
we'll
be-
send
it'll
out
be
an
done
email.
live. Cool.
So-
And we'll be answering questions. I'll have somebody set up that if you ask a question, that we'll be able to answer those questions during the thing. Couple of things that I want you to be very conscious of as you kind of go into this. And number one is, Brandon made a good point there. What's your why? Like, why are you doing this? Honestly, it's no different being in the real estate industry or any industry. Why do we get out of bed every morning and why do we do this? Like, what would cause us to go through the pain of lead genning or lead follow-up or any of the things that we have to do to actually get a real estate transaction from start to finish? What causes you to do that? So what's your big why? I think that's a huge thing. Number two is I need you to know relatively close to how much you need to make next year. Now, let me be clear. Need to make and want to make are two different things. And I'm totally fine if you do this numbers that we're going to do, if you do that for both what you need to make and both what you want to make. And then from those two, you can really figure out like what your goal would be. I don't want your goal to be what you need to make, but at the same time, sometimes agents set a goal of what I would like to make, and it becomes unattainable in the first couple of months of the year, and then you just fall off of your goal. And so I want you to be really clear on A, what do you need to make, B, what do you want to make, and then from that, you'll be able to decide like what is your real number, and you'll do these numbers based on that.
It's interesting when you say that because any agent can come in and make $1 million in a year, but it means your activities would dramatically have to shift, right?
Well,
You can't do the same things you made $100,000 doing
Yep.
and hope to make $1 million.
Yep.
You'd have to dramatically increase your workload or
that's-
add new activities.
Yeah, that's my next point, and my point is when you decide between what you need to make and what you want to make, the question really becomes, what are you really willing to change in your life to make that happen? Because you can't do the same thing, that's the same thing over and over. It's just a definition of insanity, right?
Yeah.
Expecting a different result. So we're not gonna do that. So I need you to know those two things. I need you to know, A, how many closings you had in this year, 2019, and what were they? Were they buyers or sellers? We're gonna need to know what your percentage of closings are. So did you do 70% buyers and 30% sellers? Did you do 60-40? And I'll share my story. tomorrow about how I typically determine that, and how ironic that it is that it typically is the same number every year, no matter what I do. It's frustrating for me. So, but I want you to know that. How many deals have you done? What were they, buyers or sellers? And then we can figure out kind of where your business comes from, and we need to know that number. And from what you want to make and how you're going to make it, whether it's buyers or sellers, and what that percentage looks like, we'll go through a set of numbers and percentages that will get you all the way down to how many conversations you need to have about real estate every single day, 5 days a week. I like to do my business planning based on a 50-week year instead of a 52-week year, because I think everyone needs a little vacation time.
Right, Tom?
Absolutely. Vacation. Hey, look, why work if you can't take some vacation?
Mexico's calling, so you gotta.
So,
you
an
gotta
interesting
show up.
thing though, when you talk about what you need to make, I mean, there's two ways you can look at that. You could say, okay, I need this to cover my bills, but what we worked on the last meeting was, what's your 10-year goal? And if you're committed to that goal, really what you need to make is the numbers to achieve that goal.
Yep.
And so, really look at that. What you want to make a lot of times is just a number you're grasping out of the air. It sounds nice.
Yeah.
But I think it really
But
puts some.
what is the number, by the way? Every real estate agent has, I wanna make
$100,000.
$100,000, right?
Yeah.
So,
You should start somewhere.
yeah, let's
Unless you've made that before, and then
Yes.
it goes up, but if you've never made that before, or you're just getting in the business, that seems like,
yeah, if
Well,
you're
because
if
that's
you're
like 10
halfway there.
transactions on the average sales
Yeah.
price and commission, right?
which should be
Yeah.
$345.
relatively easy, so.
Yeah, shouldn't be that hard, right?
But the important thing is show up to that meeting with the number.
Yeah, know where, that's a starting point, right?
Yeah.
We need to know where you're gonna start number-wise, and we need to know where your business typically comes from. Is it buyers, is it sellers? And then we'll do all the percentages based on that. So,
That's cool.
it should be fun. It'll be about an hour, hour and a half long, and, we'll talk about several scenarios and different ways to think about things, and different ways to calculate your numbers and figure out what works for you. And then you'll know exactly how many conversations a day you need to have about real estate to make that happen.
Exciting,
Yeah.
good stuff.
All leading
So-
up to day 3.
Day 3.
That's me.
That's with Chris.
No, it's funny that you said conversations, because what I notice with most agents is they don't have enough business streams to generate enough interest for the conversation. So that's what we're going to talk about day 3, is the ways that you can build your business. Just like our personalities, everyone gets there in a different way.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
How true that is.
Right?
Some quicker than others.
So we got a ton of topics here, but before we go on to those, I just want to mention that LVR and Nevada Realtors, as Janet said, dues are coming due, but also they're having their last meetings of the year. And so I'm having my last board meeting this week. Tom is going to be having his last board meeting as the president
Yep.
next week.
Yep.
And so the good news is you'll get a new group of people, and hopefully you'll have us around for another year. But it's time to get signed up for committees starting in January. They're probably going to be by Zoom, so easiest time ever to serve on some of these groups. But I know Janet will provide us with the info as they come out with their applications, but that's starting. And then we got a ton of topics. So Janet, you brought up the first group of topics. We'll start with yours, and your first one had to do with the listing agreement and personal property. Talk about that.
Okay, well, first of all, I want to congratulate almost all of you because of the listing contracts that I'm checking. You finally have paragraph 18 and paragraph 20 down pat. There are no more mistakes on that. I think everybody gets that. Yes. But here's what I'm seeing as I'm checking your listing contract and docu-signing it. There is a section on the first page where it says the seller is going to leave the following personal items. And 4 out of 5 of you leave that blank. And then right underneath there's a section that says the following items, personal items, do not convey with the property. And you're leaving that blank. Well, you need to have that conversation up front with your seller. Are you leaving that beautiful Tiffany glass chandelier that's over your breakfast nook? You need to ask that right up front, and you need to put it on the contract so when you do get an offer, there are no surprises. The seller knows what they're leaving, they know what they're not leaving. Now, a lot of times people don't put down refrigerator, washer, and dryer because they're willing to leave them, but they want to maybe use them as negotiation items. I understand that. But you still need to leave no blanks
You still
on the
should,
contract.
if they're not going to automatically leave them, you still should exclude it, so it could be a negotiable item, right?
Exactly.
So it should be in there.
You need to list these items on your contract, otherwise it's blank.
Well, and if there is nothing, if they truly are blank, they should say NA, right? I mean, there should be
There should be
something
no
there
blanks.
that your seller told you to put there, that way
Mm-hmm.
it's very clear, in case you get to go talk to the judge, that you did have that conversation and the items were discussed and they decided to put NA there. So there needs to be something there, not blank.
I think
Blank is
to your other
incorrect.
point was, there used to be a heck of a process that agents would go through before a home would be listed, such as measuring the home, taking photos of the home.
We still do that.
Uh-huh. Data checkbox where you check the things that actually are in the home.
And they sign it.
Yeah, and they sign it, but a lot of those things went away, and then of course the REO market, the short sale market, people didn't care anymore what was in the house because the seller didn't net anything and all of those stories, but it still leads the agent. You've got to do your part as the listing agent to give credible information about the home. And many times agents never go to the house.
Because, look, sellers change their minds. They may want to give the refrigerator right now, but when the offer comes in, they may change their mind. So it's, you have it on there, but it's still negotiable, because everything's negotiable until we, close the deal.
But it protects you too,
Yeah.
because if you have that conversation and they say, I'm taking the washer and dryer, or I'm leaving it, and they sign off on that, if they change their mind down the road, you have something to protect you, so.
Well, Janet's example of the crystal chandelier is the perfect one. I mean, it's attached to the property, and it says light fixtures in the RPA,
Should stay.
but they're instructing you in writing that that is going with me no matter what happens. You as the agent better negotiate it correctly, because it's mine.
So I think probably one of the best practices we have is we actually take with us to a listing appointment, the RPA, and show them the section where it says light fixtures. And
Yeah.
we have them read through that and say, is there
Water
anything-
softeners.
anything in that section that you're not going to be leaving? Because when the standard RPA comes over,
Yep.
this is what's going to be there. And so we'll need to exclude anything, and we'll need to make sure that we stay on top of that upon getting offers. But having to just read that and understand that those are the things that are typically understood that stay with the property,
Yeah.
makes them start thinking about, oh, well, I really don't want to leave my Tiffany lamp. And so, of course, we have that conversation about take it down and let's put
What an,
something else.
what an awesome addition to your listing presentation, actually put the RPA in front of them.
Yeah.
That's a
To
great
show your
idea.
value
I've
ahead of
never
time.
heard that,
And
Todd.
also, then
Good.
it's not, the first time they see it when it comes in.
Yeah, so I started doing it because I had to buy a pool sweep once. Like
Not for your own house.
That was for my buyer, and the list,
I don't have a pool.
the seller took the pool sweep, and I was like, wait, that's included, and we read the whole thing, and it's not included. So-
Well, and I bought a Tiffany, no, well, not a real Tiffany, but I had a same situation with a beautiful Tiffany glass chandelier over a pool table that her father, who had passed, had made for her. And the first words out of my mouth were, "Take it down
Yep.
today."
Today.
Yeah.
Get it out.
She did not. The buyers came in, and don't you know, the only reason they bought that house was for that chandelier? That was the only reason.
Well, that's at least what they
Not
say.
because it had bedrooms and bathrooms, and there was a driveway.
They were just looking for a
They just
chandelier.
wanted that shit, yeah.
So-
They were out window shopping and
Guess
found
who
a
had to
chandelier.
go buy a chandelier, because I had both ends of the deal, so
Yeah.
hey. The other thing I want to talk about really quickly, and Todd brought up a good point about he's there, he's going over things with his seller, but I see probably 4 out of 5 listing contracts where everything is typed so very nice and neat, and the seller has docu-signed everything. Now, I may give some of you the credit of saying that you actually met with the seller, you actually presented the seller a net sheet, you actually gave them comparables, and that's how you arrived at the price. And then you went back and typed everything up to make it nice and neat, and then sent it to the seller. I'm willing to give some of you that much credit. But
Not everybody, but
Not
some
all,
of you.
yeah.
So here's the thing, if you came to take my listing, and you walked in my house with a price typed into the contract, you don't even know that my house has gold-plated nails. So it's obviously worth more.
It's a great point.
Really, and it
It's a
happens
great
all the time. Meet with your people, give them comparables, and don't ever go in. You want to have a price in mind, it needs to be priced somewhere between here and here, and I'm going to argue with you, Mr. Seller, if you don't see what I'm presenting to you, but don't ever go in with a final price typed on the contract?
I think Vaughn and I brought it up a couple broker insights ago, and it's about intention, and that's what the real estate commission will look at when they look at your paperwork, is they will look at the intention of the agent, and if you walk in, like Janet said, and the price is already filled in and there's no negotiation and no backup documents, like a net sheet or signed comps, then the intention is you as the agent made the decision without the seller's input, and you just shoved it down their throat. And so I think the point is, if it's blank, and you take your comps and you say, what would you like to list your home for, and you negotiate, and then you put it in the contract, well, you handwrite it in, you now have to have everyone initial that. And that's the other thing we see a lot of, is there's blanks that are handwritten and the rest of the contract's typed. That has to be initialed, because it's changes. But that's huge, because that's a massive liability for you as the agent, and you're the one that has an E&O policy that they're gonna sue later when their home escalates $50,000 and you force them into that price.
Trying to make that last sale for December, right?
And see, here's the thing, I said that to a newer agent one time, I said, you can write stuff in on the contract. Type out the things that aren't gonna change, like the parcel number, the address. Other things you have to confer with your seller, and he said, you mean we can type and write on the contract? I'm like, yeah, you can, it doesn't have to all be typed. And if I'm bringing you a contract, chances are, most of it's handwritten.
As long as changes are initialed by all
Well, so if you have
parties.
a typed contract and there are written places, everywhere you've written in, you've changed from the
Yes.
typed form, need to be initialed.
Yes.
It's that simple.
And here's another great thing is if you're gonna write in, don't send the document to the broker prior to meeting with the
Yeah.
seller. Because then we sign everything, and then you go and you change it above the line, and that doesn't work, so.
The broker has to be the one initial with that seller. I mean,
Yeah,
that's-
so we should always sign last, after everything's negotiated out, agreed upon, send it to us, and then it's done.
Exactly.
It's huge.
And actually, don't send it to us, send it to one of these guys, because I'm not the fastest at getting those done. and
It's
I
not
know-
really us anymore, Brandon's not.
Yeah, it's them. No, because the emails come in, and I know I'm taking too long, because when I do finally sign it, and I do get through my emails, there's a lot of them that says I've already signed it, so I know you guys are sending them to me multiple times, but if you want them quicker, these guys can get them done quicker.
What I really like that you said, and we had that pricing conversation with the stats in the market, is that, comparables are important because you've actually given the seller the benefit of market information. And so many agents never take that information and put it into their file, showing that they did that due diligence. And I think in a market like this, with strong inventory levels dropping and prices escalating, that's a huge protection, because people are already starting to say, well, I bet I could have gotten more for my house. And I bet I could get more
and
later.
let's be clear, they don't say that until they're 45 days down the road. I mean, you
Yeah,
listed
ready to
45
close.
days ago, it's closing tomorrow, and they're like, oh, wow, based on the house down the street, I could have got another 20 grand.
Yep.
I want to have a conversation with you. So, yeah,
But that's, backup documentation is important on the listing side on your comps, but also on the homes you're showing to the buyers.
Yeah.
I mean, you should be hanging on to those MLS sheets and put them into your file.
Absolutely.
Well, and
Proof of work.
I will tell you this, when I worked for another company, I got a little letter from the real estate division that said, one of my agents had a complaint filed against him. It was actually two brothers fighting over the dad's condo. The dad had passed away. And so I called my agent and I said, he said, you've mispriced it, that's not the price they wanted to sell it for, that's not what it's worth. He brought in his file, and I really could have leaned across the desk and kissed him,
Oh, I thought she was gonna say something.
because he had the entire comparables for the entire condo complex, and he made both brothers sign and date it.
Wow.
So then we called Carolyn Washington, at Real Estate Division Investigator, and said, can John come down and talk to you? He went down, he took his file, and she looked at him and said, case dismissed.
Document.
Yes.
So,
well, and you know what, you say that, and anyone who's never been in the situation when you get a letter from the division, you don't get it. Like, when you get the letter from the division, everything that you've done for the past 30 days passes through your head, like, what did I do? Where am I, like, where is this
Where did I
gonna
mess
end?
up?
Yeah, how much is this gonna cost me? Like, the backup paperwork is just,
Gold,
just,
it's gold.
it's golden at that point. It's like, okay, I got this, I got that, I'm good.
Where is all that paperwork I
Yeah,
had?
where did I put it? Put it in Sky Slope, that's
There
where you
used to
put
be a
it.
saying a long time ago, all these men walked around with, 50 keys hanging off their key ring, and the saying was, he who dies with the most keys wins. But in real estate, he who dies with the
Janitors.
most paperwork wins.
With the most paperwork, you don't die.
Okay, so,
We dead subject.
I'm
Just
still
so
on
we're
the keys.
clear, I
I'm
only
still on the
have 3
keys.
keys on my keychain, only 3,
So,
not gonna win.
we've seen a trend lately that we need to address, and that's where agents are sending out counters, and they're getting the counter fully executed, and then they're opening escrow with that counter. And to have a fully executed contract, you need the counter and the RPA. So if I'm the buyer's agent, and I send over an offer to the seller gets my offer, and they decide they're gonna write me a counter, the proper process is that you're gonna write a counter, and you're gonna create that document, and you're gonna put it with the RPA, and at the back of the RPA, you're gonna check counter offer, and you're gonna have your client sign the counter and the RPA, because they're signing all of those pages, and then you're gonna send that all back to the buyer's agent. Now, if you really wanna take it a step further,
Why is he looking right at me?
I'm looking at you, and you know who
I
you
don't
are.
do this.
You should take the SRPD that you've already gotten, because you had it done when it listed, and you've had now 30 days of marketing to have it completed, and you put that with the counter and the purchase agreement, and you send it back. They've now been fully disclosed, they got all the SRPD info, and then when they accept it, you have a fully executed contract. Or they counter it, and you execute that counter, then it's fully executed. But all of those items need to be signed and initialed to have a
Complete
fully,
package.
complete package. And so just don't send one.
Yeah, I think we see that a lot where agents don't want to go through the time it takes to import the RPA in and get it signed and mark counter. They just want to throw out a counter real fast.
Takes 10 seconds.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just do it the right way. I mean, again, when the division sends you the letter and you go, oh, wait, did I do that one the wrong way or the right way? Like, it's just, it's peace of mind. Do it the right way the first time.
And the other piece of that is, like Janet said before, in the purchase agreement, there could be terms that they've now agreed to that they haven't acknowledged. And so even though the counter is only countering price, there's other things the seller and the buyer have agreed to that have to be initialed. And so that's the other piece of it. You want to make sure that's fully executed. The other thing we're seeing a lot of is commission in the RPA, which, Vandana, take a breath. You should never address commission and RPA for a couple of reasons. Number one, the commission belongs to brokers, right? It's an agreement between the seller and the listing broker on who's going to get paid. And then once that commission's been agreed upon and marketed to all the brokers that are out there and it's been contracted, that commission is owned by Brandon as the broker of this company and by whoever the broker of the other company is. Buyer and seller cannot negotiate it. And so if you put it into a purchase agreement to negotiate terms, those parties have no authority over the actual commission. And so that's why you see arbitrations for amounts where people said, oh, well, you're gonna do this. Well, no, the broker hasn't signed it. And so commissions should always be negotiated on a commission agreement, which is the commission order, right? So you simply call up escrow and say, hey, I want to credit my client $1,000 for their costs because of this issue. They change it on the commission order, and then it's signed by the broker.
Right.
And if both brokers are going to do it, it's the same process. Both brokers would notify escrow, we're going to do a credit, an email in writing saying that the broker is okay with it, and then the broker is going to sign it.
So there actually should be a commission agreement on every single transaction. And the reason we don't have to write one up on every single transaction is we all subscribe to the MLS, which has a blanket one. And so there is already an agreement between two brokers on what that commission is going to be. There's no way a buyer and seller can renegotiate that agreement that's between there. They're not part of that party.
Right.
And so it's important that you make sure that that's taken care of outside of the RPA between the brokers.
Yes.
And there is a document and transaction desk to do it.
Now, many times, we've heard as the reason behind this is, close your ears, Shelley, the lender or the underwriter says it has to be in the contract. They require that. Well, there's no federal requirement that commission's in a contract. And what it usually is someone has done it before, and they've done it multiple times since, and it started to become a habit, and no one's ever corrected them on it.
Right.
And so it simply is just an informational thing that I'm a realtor. It's a violation of my code of ethics if I negotiate commission in a contract. I can't do it. And also, the buyer and seller have no authority over it. Would your underwriter want you to do something you have no authority over?
Well,
And they just don't understand.
so I've had this happen 3 times this year. We've
Yeah.
had 3 times where we've done some kind of credit.
Crystal
And
chandeliers?
Every single lender has come to me and
Full
said,
ratings.
I need that in an addendum. And
Yes.
I've said, no, we're not putting in an addendum. It's not negotiable between buyer and seller. We will not put in, it's on the commission instructions. It will be disclosed to the seller at the time that they sign the commission instructions. And no, we're not gonna do that. Not one has ever pushed back.
So I
They've
think,
asked for it, but after I've said no, they have never pushed back.
And you could get a commission order from escrow and provide it to them, showing
Yeah.
the commissions and where the
but
credits are.
I think you guys have to really get this right now, because I think when it starts, we're disclosing all commissions to all parties out there. I think there's gonna be more of a discussion or people asking to renegotiate that.
Yeah.
And you just need to know how to do it the proper way.
And many times when you look at the commission order, because I've gotten a few of them lately, it actually states the reason why right below the commission. Like it says the commission amount, and then in big bold print it says, listing agent is giving a credit to seller or to the buyer of X number of dollars because they're fully disclosing it to all parties. And then what it happens is the lender will also get a copy of the closing statement showing the credit. So in every place that they need it, it's now fully disclosed and contractual for that broker who signed it.
But it does not go on an addendum, and it does not go on an RPA
No.
because it's not between buyer and seller, it's between brokers.
Now, I got a question a couple of weeks ago where they said, well, there is no other agent. It's just me, I'm representing my buyer on a for sale by owner. And so the for sale by owner is seeing all of this stuff and they just want it. There's usually a commission agreement that you execute in advance of the contract
There better be, or you're
with
not
that
gonna get paid.
seller saying, here's what we're gonna be paid, and so you've already done that. And so that document was between the listing broker and that seller, or the buyer's broker and that seller, saying, you're gonna pay us. So it works the same way.
Yeah, agreed.
Not against the law, but definitely an ethics violation.
Yes,
So-
yeah, you don't wanna be in front of that ethics group for that. Last thing that I had on this list before we go to Todd's emotional support item, it's a good topic too. We've still noticed a ton of agents in the company posting Facebook posts with no license or company name listed on it. And what we see are hashtags. We see that they have information in the post that they're doing. We're down the road in the post.
So
It's their
these-
company info.
These are posts about houses.
Posts about real estate.
Yeah.
You know, they're either talking about a property or they're showing clients out viewing or they're doing something. You've got to have your license number info on there. It's an automatic $500 fine per occurrence. And so if you did 20 posts this week because you're doing your posting and none of them are compliant, that's $10,000.
Yep.
Right? And it's automatic. It's not even negotiable at that point. They automatically fine you and you got to go to a hearing whenever it happens to get over it. So don't be that person,
Yeah,
please.
don't be that person, because you're gonna get a phone call from the Hammer, Bondina. And I guarantee you, if you wanna talk to Bondina, it's better you call her and not have her call you on a violation. So, just be aware of it, because it's something simple and it can be very expensive. And there are people out there really watching
Yeah.
Yeah.
and turning you in.
Yeah.
And so, a lot of people think it's us, it's not us, it's the state law, it's required, and, people are turning you in.
And I think the other thing is, if you have to ask the question, is it real estate related? Put your license
Put your
number on it.
license-
I mean, what could
Yeah.
it hurt?
Just,
You know?
I mean, if nothing else, if it's not real estate related, maybe it will generate a real estate lead because you have your real estate license on it.
Yeah, could you imagine someone, hey, I saw that picture of your kid the other day. What's that number underneath
what-
it? Oh, I'm a realtor. Did you
I
know?
sell houses,
And
yeah.
well, while we're on that too, let's talk about the proper way to display your number. I have a lot of agents that are doing NVRD, which they think stands for Nevada Real Estate Division, number symbol, and then they give their license. The real estate division does not want all that. They want your prefix, S for salesperson, BS for broker salesperson, or B for broker, dot, and then your license number. Now, my license number is 0034586. I don't need the zeros. They don't want the
Well,
leading zeros.
wait a minute though, so it's not required, right? You're putting more in there than you need to necessarily. You're not gonna get in trouble because you put it all in there.
Probably not, but that's how
it's not
the division
necessary,
has
right?
requested it to be.
Right? And so just, again, when you're looking at characters and everything else, and you're complaining that it's so long, you just really need to, like Janet said, you don't need the zeros, you don't need the letters of
Or
NVRED.
hashtags or anything else.
Yeah.
And you do also have to post that you work for Signature. You have to have your company name. It has to be prominently displayed anywhere you market. It doesn't have to be dominant, but it does have to be there. And so make sure that you also have that complaint. I've seen a lot of agents tag it as a logo in the bottom of the screen, kind of like a watermark, where it always shows their company that they're with.
Right.
And the other thing I see a lot of that doesn't make any sense is, why would you compete against the brand that you work for, right? So a lot of agents go and create their own brand to compete against their brand.
Like the Bishop Group or The Barton Real Estate Group.
But we have it with it. We have it with it.
Where?
Look,
Yeah, see?
There we go.
There, see, he
So-
does.
So mine's on my other, you can't see it on this side.
But he wore this for an example.
You would always put them together on anything that you have, not compete them against each other. So you would market them always as one group
yeah,
at
so
the same
my
time.
logo is the Barton Real Estate Group, and there's a line, and then it says Signature Real Estate.
Mine's same
So
way.
they're together.
I ripped it off from him.
No, it's important too. Here's the thing, you know, one of the things, if you're marketing with the brand, then all the other signs and all the other marketing out there actually help you, because
Yes.
they say, I
Yeah,
see your
that's right.
signs everywhere.
Yep.
If you're just your team, you only have the exposure of whatever marketing you put out, but if you tie them together, you get more power.
And we're all doing it together. So like you said, I'm putting my marketing dollars with everyone's. And that's the benefit of being with a large company like us, is that everyone is spending to promote each other.
Well, and not only, and it's also required by the division, right? I mean, the division says that if you're gonna put your name out there as a
Yeah.
realtor, you gotta put your broker's name out there with it, and they need to be the same. Like you say
Prominent.
prominent, however, whatever font size and type and boldness your name is what your company has to be. They can't be, your company could be bigger or more bold than your name, but if you can't have your name bigger and bolder than what the company name is.
The other thing is,
Then
you
you
do
do
need
the
to, you do need to use the full name. If you're typing out as Signature Real Estate Group, it has to be the full thing.
Yeah.
And it can't be a hashtag, it's actually gotta be
Yeah.
the name.
So the last one I had on here was one that was kind of interesting, and Janet and Tom, you'll remember this from our board, and Brandon, you were on Forms Committee, I think, when they talked about it, but courtesy listing of a rental. There's no such term as courtesy. You have the same duties on every transaction that you represent somebody, regardless. I mean, my friend Shelley has a listing that she wants me to go on and promote.
A rental
A
listing.
rental listing. There's no courtesy. I'm responsible for everything I put in the MLS.
Yep.
I'm responsible for the co-op that other agent, the showing agent, is going to get. I have duties that I have to do, and I must provide information in my brokerage on the file I'm presenting.
You're very responsible to fill out a complete listing packet on it
Right.
too.
Yes.
First,
I mean, you
duties
can't just,
owed.
you just can't throw something up on the MLS without the paperwork. So.
Yeah, exactly. And so I see that a lot still as agents are putting courtesy, and I get what they mean. It just means, hey, you're gonna still work with this seller, I'm just putting it in the MLS. You're actually devaluing the service you're providing,
Yeah.
right? Because, so you just do this as a courtesy, so what do you charge for real work? You know, I mean, you really need to promote the fact that you have a responsibility when you do that. Now, we know it happens, and we know we're just facilitating a client, but there's still a lot of things you have to do as part
Well,
of
you
that.
still gotta have a duties owed, like,
Yeah.
you still gotta have a listing agreement, you still have to do all the same paperwork, so why are you not providing the same service?
There is a document that they created a while back for rentals because they don't have some of the same conditions that listing agreements have in a rental post, and so there are some smaller documents. I don't know if we have
Property
that.
management agreement works.
Well,
No.
the property manager.
Yeah.
If you have that permit.
Yeah, you should
Don't
send
do
it-
that. If you have a permit, you can do property management,
Right.
that's it.
And so we do have an agreement though that we use internally called a tenant placement agreement.
Yes.
And it's really designed where you take and you list it, you can actually take the application, you can actually go through the process, write up the lease and turn it over to that seller. And when I do it, I charge at least 1 month's rent.
Yeah.
In doing it. I don't do a courtesy listing in that regard. The reason behind that is because really 1 month's rent really almost totals out to be what it would be for us to manage the property through the entire year as well. And so it really make better sense for them just to hire property management and go through that process. But there is a tenant placement agreement and you can utilize that too because it covers the listing of it.
So to continue on that same chain of thought, in your instance, you are a licensed management company that does this on a large scale with a lot of systems in place. And what I see a lot of the times is part of that courtesy is, I'm gonna help them screen the tenant. My concern with that is that you are doing something that you don't usually do without the tools to do it. And so we see a lot of questions on our Agents of Signature page on who do you use for this, who do you use for that. And now you're helping this client now screen this tenant. You're also taking on all the liability that comes
Fair
with
housing.
screening a tenant. And the whole point is, you're not getting paid anything because it was a courtesy.
Courtesy.
And so now you've taken on $10,000 because that's your deductible, right, on your E&O, and millions of dollars in liability just to help someone screen
Well,
a tenant.
understand this, if you didn't charge anything, your E&O isn't covering it.
That's-
There's no paperwork
that's
in the
a huge point,
file.
too.
You never ran it through the brokerage and you're not covered on E&O. I just don't understand why people do that for a few $100
Yeah.
or for free. Take on all that liability. I just don't get it. But
If it were me, I would go to a property manager here in the company that does it full time and I would say, hey, listen, I've got this great client I want to maintain a relationship with. You get the value of the rental leads that come off of it that I'd like to work any of the buyer leads, that the tenant can buy. Could we work out something where we can give them the best service possible and keep my client really happy instead of me trying to, rig it together?
For a courtesy listings, all I ever hear when someone says a courtesy is you're doing your job for free.
Yeah.
I just don't,
Yeah. Courtesy's
I don't
free.
Yeah,
understand.
And I get what they're saying. I've got this great client that buys homes from me, and I want to do him a favor.
Sure.
And the intention's good, but you're the one that loses.
I
in
gotta
the
tell
end.
you, the client doesn't want the favor, the client wants great customer service.
Yeah, it's
right?
how it's
So,
presented, right?
yeah, it's not about, hey,
They
could you
want it
do me
listed-
this
they want it
favor?
listed and
They
rented.
want it done right. So do it right, so that even the person who owns the property is covered under the E&O insurance, because now we could defend that person as part of any problem that we had if it ever came up with. But if you don't have any paperwork, there's no E&O
You
insurance.
can
it's
really
over.
get in trouble with fair housing, and I'll give you some
Major
examples.
issues.
We actually have fired clients that we manage their property because they want us to do things that are illegal on turning away somebody. We won't participate in that. But if you're just doing a favor for somebody and you don't have the systems in place for that, and you don't have the processes that you treat people equally every single time, you could get in real hot water real fast, and that's not
Not what
a
you want.
violation you want to
And
do.
it's not state issues, that's federal
And
issues.
discrimination isn't really covered under E&O,
No.
just so you know. So really, really be careful and really think about that before you do that.
Here's the other reason why I bring this up. This last weekend, we received a number of complaint calls from agents who had tenants that wanted to go and view a property, and the agent was non-responsive, and they didn't answer their phone. And I understand they were out for the weekend. It wasn't you, I'm not looking at you, just, it's fun that way. But they literally weren't returning phone calls because it was a rental. And so that service not only applies to the customer that you're working with, but to the agents that are wanting to view that home. And so they get frustrated, they get upset, and then they call the broker and say, hey, I can't get your agent to reply. And then you pull up the listing and see it's a courtesy rental. And you're like, well, now I understand why they don't want to reply, because they're out doing more important
But they
things.
have to reply.
Yes,
I
they
mean,
have
it's our job.
They owe those same
ethically-
ethic, yeah.
Yeah,
that's
it's an
something-
ethics
And
problem.
every one of these need to be run through the brokerage. I mean,
Yes.
the quickest way to lose your license is to mess around with property management, step outside
Yep.
your thing, collect checks outside of the brokerage. You're done for nothing.
Yeah, the division's self-funded, and so they love to find people.
Not yet.
Not yet. Not yet.
It's
Not
9
yet.
out of top 10 complaints at the real estate division.
Property management.
So you brought up emotional support animals and how that relates to the same type of topic, so.
Yeah, so I've had a couple questions this last couple weeks about, ironically, an agent in the office wanting to vet a possible tenant for a client that had occurred that they were doing a courtesy listing for, and the seller did not want to take a tenant who had emotional support animals. And so the question was, which I thought was a good question, is the emotional support animal the same as a, now I've lost the word, what's the other animal?
Service.
Service animal.
Service animal.
Yeah.
So is that the same thing?
It is in Nevada.
And so, yeah, so the answer is it is in Nevada, and you cannot deny a tenant a property on that term only.
And the key word here is animal.
Yeah.
It's not a support pet, it's not a service pet, it's an animal. It's different than the pets. You can't charge a pet deposit for it. There are services out there that will do the screening on that. There is a cost to it. Shell Sharoni uses them, I know that. But again, if you're getting into selecting tenants and you have an owner telling you we don't want to do that, you're going to get yourself into trouble.
Yeah, that's a major violation, and it'll cost you a lot of money. So they are the same, and you can't charge a pet deposit for them. You can't deny for that reason only. And if you're asking these kinds of questions, let me just be really bold. Stop doing the rental stuff, because you're just going to get yourself in trouble.
Yeah.
And there are more people out there today trolling real estate agents than there have been in the past. Like, 10 years ago, you probably get away with it because, people weren't really so mad at the world. But today, they're just looking for reasons to get people
You're
in
not
trouble.
going to get away with it now.
And
because
you're not.
You've got a lot of people that are just getting them certified. They're not truly.
It's not
there.
hard. For $20 online, I can
Right.
marry you and get a
And
support
so
animal.
they know the rules.
time?
Yeah.
Here you are asking the rules, trying to figure it out, and they know them.
They already know the
So
rules.
you're going to get yourself in trouble. So.
Here was the challenge for the agent that I've been talking to most recently had, and that was I asked if that phone call thing was not me personally, but at my brokerage, because this agent had numerous phone calls over the weekend, more than 30 about this particular property. And the one person that was asking about the emotional support animal, they were asking if they should submit a application on the list, on the rental, because they had this emotional support animal. And he said, don't know, gotta find out, I'll get back with you. Well, the challenge was after 30 phone calls and multiple emails and so much communication about this one rental courtesy listing, he lost that person's phone number. And so wasn't able to get back to the person who was asking about emotional support, which can easily be construed as
Yeah.
you just didn't call me back because you didn't want to deal with it. Now, I understand that the agent, he understood the problem here, like that's not what was really happening, but he didn't really know what to do because he really couldn't find the number. So, again, didn't have a system in place.
Yeah, you need to
Didn't
make
really
sure.
know the rule, and might be working in an arena that
Get yourself
probably
going.
isn't where you should
So,
be.
so I'm gonna take this a different direction as my final thing that's on here, because it's kind of interesting. I've never had this happen before, but I'm putting it on everyone's radar. So I had a property that we sold about a year ago. And while we're listing the property, it was a long-term listing that took about 3 months. It just before the market got.
Long term.
Yeah.
that's
Wow.
Compared to now, 30 days.
That's right.
And
3 days.
in the backyard, sent a guy over to fix a leak in the drip system, and while he's there, this tortoise jumps out, you know, as they do. And that's what the guy said, he jumped out at me. And so in the backyard of this house, the seller had it as a rental for about 18 years, believe that. And when they lived in the home 18 years ago, they had a desert tortoise that was in the backyard. And they figured that over the course of time, people had just taken it and it left. It had been at this property 18 years. And we go to convey it, and there's a tortoise. And so it's got a habitat, it's set up, it's actually registered to that property because they have an entire system where you can go and adopt desert tortoise for your backyard.
Leaping tortoise.
This guy said that. He said he leaped out at me.
desert tortoise.
And all I can think of is, you know, like that, you know? But the whole point is we're now getting into some interesting things where disclosure of things that you find out.
Yeah.
I would have never known, because you don't see it, it's a massive backyard. I would have never known that they had this desert tortoise. And I would have never known it was registered that they had one there. And so it's really important, back to your point, to have a conversation with sellers about the home that they live in, the things going on. Is there anything else I should let
Something I
anyone
should
know?
know, my parents have a tortoise in their backyard. I've seen it one time in 5 years.
Really,
Yeah,
Is it
so
registered?
Be careful.
that's a good question.
right? And I guess when you go and adopt them, you register that you've taken adoption of this tortoise.
Oh,
And so they have a whole group
Look,
set up for
tortoises
it.
close down construction sites.
Yeah.
Like they find a tortoise on a construction site and it is shut down until the tortoise people, and I don't know what they're called.
Animal
but
control?
I don't think it is.
Oh, no.
I think it's
Environmentalists?
it's an environmentalist thing.
Really?
They'll
Yeah.
come in and assess the property. and
Have you
make
ever
sure
seen a
that they're
tortoise
not-
fence?
Oh, yeah,
Out
all
in
the
Sandy
time.
Valley, everywhere in Sandy
Yeah.
Valley, they have, it's about
about a
that
foot tall.
tall,
Yeah.
and it's, because, you know, that's,
was
they
before
jump
they-
over
that's
those.
before they started leaping.
They keep
Anyway.
the rocks away from us so they don't climb on the rock
But I
and
just-
leap over.
You know, the buyer got super excited when they found out about this tortoise, so it all worked out really well. They were happy about it, their kids loved it. But what's even more interesting is 8 sets of tenants have moved through this property, and all of them have experienced this tortoise. No one ever said a word.
Nice.
Wow.
Crazy, huh?
And they can live to be, what, 100 years old or
They can live to be
At
pretty
least
old.
18.
Over
Well,
50.
pretty old. A lot older than me.
He's good with numbers.
Anyway,
Never wrong.
All right.
that's all we got.
That's all
Oh,
we
no,
got.
I have one more
Wait,
thing.
wait,
One more
oh,
thing.
you're a
Make it
raffle?
We have
quick.
2 more things.
Okay, really quickly, your holiday parties are coming up. Please go to your own office holiday party. We are limited to 50 per office per the governor's directive, and you must be on an RSVP list. If you think I'm gonna show up at the party and walk in the door, no, you're not. You have to be, we have to have that list, and we're buying food for 50, and that's it. RSVP, all the offices.
Call your office manager of the office and get registered today to ensure you have a spot.
Yeah,
We'd
so
love to have you.
we're at 40 in Green Valley, so if you're thinking about going, if you're in Green Valley, you need to get registered, because it's gonna fill up.
Is it including plus ones, or is it?
Yes, that
a
includes
guest?
plus ones.
Guest, wow.
Yep.
So,
So let's raffle?
Raffle, let's do a
go
raffle. Okay.
12 days of Christmas.
Here we go, number 1. So it's the first person to answer the question, right?
Online,
Yeah, people
not
still
here.
online,
As I
yeah.
said, it's
So online, so
Do we have people online still?
we're gonna,
You
we're gonna
ready?
monitor
Okay.
it.
We have a few.
All right, for the 10 people out there, here's your
There's more
report.
than that.
Let's go, okay, what is the FHA loan limit?
Oh, I wrote it down.
The FHA loan limit.
You
is
can't
the
answer
first
it.
For
one.
2021?
I'm not gonna answer
Okay.
it.
Can't
Okay.
answer.
And so we'll go back through these
Yeah,
comments.
got it.
So
Number
let's-
2 is, Tom mentioned that we have had increased sales for how many months in this year, 2020?
Wow,
Up to this
consecutive
date.
sales.
Yeah, but he made that
Consecutive
stat up, so it's.
Sales.
It's okay.
He still said it, and it's
Yeah.
on fire.
That's right.
It's on fire.
Number 3, he also mentioned what the median sales price is today. This
Yep.
is, what number was that? What sales price is that? And then,
Oh, these are good ones.
you like them? Sorry, I was
He just
paying
likes it,
attention
they'll
at
have
the
to do
very
with
beginning. Number 4 is day 2 of the business planning is tomorrow. What time is it tomorrow?
Oh, I know.
Oh, look at him.
All right, those are your 4. So for the first 4, or first person at each of those questions, I will be sending out an Amazon gift card. Make sure you pay attention and come live to the
Online.
next sales
Looks
meeting.
like Ginny Rogers has the FHA loan limits.
Ooh.
12 months, was that what you said?
Nope.
No.
Nope.
Nope. 11
Not 12
months?
Nope.
No.
No, this is number 8.
Keep counting down.
And then the average, no, it's not 350.
Nope.
That's
Close.
the new
They're
list.
real
Very close.
That's new
Vonda,
listing.
Vonda won the 1 o'clock tomorrow.
Oh,
Oh,
Okay.
good job, Rhonda.
She always pays attention.
I know.
Everyone got that one.
She was first.
So it's the current median price range,
And how many months? we've
and how
been-
many months have we had
Increased.
the record?
So real quick,
consecutively?
I just want to let everyone know too, because we've got some pretty dynamic sales meetings that we're going to end the year with. And so on the 15th, we have an amazing sales meeting about our MLS system and some new tools
Yep.
that are in it. And we have Kathy, does she used to go by Red?
Red,
Yeah.
yes, she's
Yeah.
been red for 30 years.
Yes.
Yeah. So she's going to bring some amazing info on our next sales meeting on the 15th. On the 22nd, we have applied analysis that's going to give us an economic update. Not like the one they did for Tom for the whole membership. This is them in
Just for us.
signature, talking about what's going on here. On the 29th, because we all should end with some legal information, we have Sanders coming in to tell us basically all the stuff that happened this year legally that we need to be mindful of. And so that'll be great. We're going to start January with an agent panel. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go back to some of our top producers that had a stellar year in 2020 and find out why and how they were able to
They had a
do it and
roadmap.
maintain, right?
Yeah, business plan.
And possibly, this one's not on the books yet, but possibly, we've got a marketing expert, part of a large marketing firm here in Las Vegas, that's going to come and share some tips and tricks that they use to stay front of mind with consumers during the pandemic. So
I'm excited for that one
I
too.
think that'll be great.
Sweet.
Some good
So, yeah.
stuff lined up. So Annie Bushman got 6,
6
Okay.
months, 6
Awesome.
months, 6
And-
months in a row.
and Tyson just beat Tanya out by
Uh-oh.
a second,
Seconds.
345.
Awesome.
That's it, 345 is the median
So there's-
price range.
There's your 12 days of Christmas.
Cool.
All
First
right.
4. Yay, all
All right,
Congratulations,
So we're
you
at-
guys.
All right, thanks a lot, guys, and we'll see you tomorrow at the business planning.
$1 o'clock.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, y'all.